Okay, so our next anti-pattern, which I've called usually passes, this describes a test which probably passes most of the time, but occasionally will fail, and when it does fail, it's not actually indicating that there's any real problem in the application. And indeed, the application code that it's testing probably hasn't even changed at all since the test was passing. Tests that act in this way aren't really useful to us. It can really devalue that test, so if you see that test failing now and again, and you just get used to it failing, well, for a start, how do you know there isn't some bug in the application code? But also, when you do see that fail, you're less likely to treat that as a failure that needs to be investigated. So that test isn't really providing you with as much value as it should be. And if you have a series of tests that perform in this way, then it can often cause you to ignore any build failure that goes on, which is a problem because they could actually be telling you about some genuine problems in your application code. Now, times I've seen this happen are when tests depend on some external resource, some resource that you should be perhaps providing a mock or a stub for in your test. Maybe it's a resource on disk, maybe it's a database or something. I've also seen this problem occur when people try and test multi-threaded concurrent code. So it may be that there's some race condition in the way your test operates with the system. Now what I found is in these cases, it's always best to try and isolate your test away from that concurrency, away from that multi-threading. So look at ways where you have got multi-threaded code to really break that apart and test those aspects independently from one another, rather than trying to invoke it all at once and execute that code on multiple threads. Problems you often see cropping up in tests and signs you're suffering from this include thread.sleep littered around a few test cases, just to get tests to wait just long enough for the condition to be normally true that they're testing. So again, if you do see that happening, if you do find yourself having to put sleeps in or things like that, just think about how you're writing those tests and whether you really do need to be testing that concurrency aspect in a single test. And look for ways of just breaking that up a little bit if you can.